Next, we have a panel discussion based on the theme of Transition in Emerging Countries. We would like to introduce to you our panelists for this session. Mr. Tengku Muhammad Taufik, President and Group Chief Executive Officer of Petroleum Nasional Berhad Petronas. Mr. Zhou Liang, Chairman of the Board, Juhua Group Corporation. Mr. Sumant Sinha, Founder, Chairman, and Managing Director of Renew Power Private Limited. And Mr. Satoshi Akita, Founder and CEO of Washa. The panel discussion will be moderated by Mr. Kazushige Nobutani, President, Japan External Trade Organization, JETRO. We would like to pass it over to you, Mr. Nobutani.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to panel discussion number 3 at Net Zero Leaders Summit. In this panel, we discuss transition of emerging economies. We have distinguished panelists from Malaysia, India, China, and Japan. My name is Kazushige Nobutani, the President of JETRO, or Japan External Trade Organization. I am given a privilege to moderate today's panel. Let us get into the discussion. Today, we focus on 2 issues. The first one is efforts and challenges, and the second one is opportunities and cooperation. Today's panelists face different realities, such as economic situation, social structure, geography, availability of energy sources, etc. And they drive energy transition to carbon neutrality in realistic and individual manner. There's no single silver bullet. Here comes the first question. Please tell us your efforts and challenges against backdrop of your company and your country. I'd like to give 3 minutes for each. Please start with brief self-introduction and make your comments. The first panelist is Mr. Tengku Muhammad Taufik from Petronas, Malaysia. Petronas is one of the largest national oil companies in the world. Mr. Tengku Taufik will explain how he leads energy transition of his company and his country. So, Mr. Taufik, please.
Thank you, Nobutani-san. To the esteemed members of this panel, to the people watching, my name is Taufik. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here, to be a guest of this function. And I think this is a very important topic that we need to tackle together. Let's face the realities that we contend with. The Asia-Pacific region still will continue, despite the current hiccups that we face because of the pandemic, to be a center of energy demand growth well into the next 3 or 4 decades. And this growth is driven by increased urbanization, industrialization, and increasing economic affluence of its citizens. We will have a greater middle class. And with this kind of challenge, the region must ensure that energy supply is affordable, it is secure, and it is sustainable. Now, if we think about the numbers that Asia contends with, we still have the challenge of hundreds of millions of people, 200 by last count, who still cannot get regular access to electricity, and over 1 billion who will need to still tackle the needs for things as basic as cooking fuel. With the pandemic hitting us, there has been a point in time that we deal with this as an industry-wide and a national imperative across many borders. We are faced with the challenge of providing the people of Asia Pacific as a pathway to more secure and sustainable energy. So insofar as Petronas' role as a national oil company, we must focus on being able to produce affordable and reliable energy solutions that has positive social impact and is also sustainable when it comes to the perspective of the government, the environment rather. And in doing so, we have always held up as a hallmark our reliability as a provider of energy solutions. We are an established player within the LNG market, and we've got a proven track record of delivering over 11,000 cargoes safely. And we need to work towards decarbonizing our entire product portfolio very, very quickly, while leveraging on our geographic proximity to many of the core markets in this energy demand center. As we go down the path of dealing with energy transition, we will also be tackling the need to diversify our products and offerings to the market while decarbonizing and making ourselves cleaner and more sustainable. This means moving into adjacencies, working in business spaces such as LNG bunkering, entering and working with governments that are addressing energy mix shifts through solutions like virtual pipeline systems, and even providing for extra solutions to unlock stranded gas, such as floating solutions that we have. We are working with many partners to pursue a lower carbon footprint. And to this end, I conclude by saying we have committed to a net zero carbon emissions by 2050 to focus and demonstrate our commitment to becoming a more sustainable player. Thank you, Nobutani-san.
Well, thank you, Mr. Taufik. Next, I would like to ask Mr. Zoria, chairman of JUHA Group Co. Limited from China. Yeah.
I am the chairman of the board of JUHA Group Corporation. JUHA Group is a chemical conglomerate, and we are developing fluorine chemical, electronic chemical, and green materials. Energy transition. In energy transition, we have two challenges. First, we have to develop. At the same time, we are facing the challenge of emission peak. In many companies of developed countries, they have already developed, followed by emission peak. However, JUHA is having a biggest challenge, which is how to achieve development under the limited energy conditions. Second is the power supply structure transformation. How to transform from thermal power generation structure to low carbon power source. It is an unavoidable proposition. And so we deal with the challenges of carbon peak out and carbon neutrality in the following aspects. First, we are optimizing the energy structure and promoting diversified energy allocation. We are looking at the source of electricity. The low productivity project with high emission is now being restricted strictly, and we are also allocating resources to green industry. And we are promoting solar photovoltaic power generation projects and actively applying green power and renewable energy to generate electricity. We are also accelerating construction of natural gas power generation projects. Secondly, we are conserving energy and reducing emissions to improve energy efficiency. Including APC, we are constructing digital plants. And we are optimizing the production process to reduce material and energy consumption. Furthermore, we are building the circular economy industry chain and strengthening the recovery and utilization of byproducts and wastes, and improving the utilization level of heat waste. We are also creating sophisticated equipment to raise the energy efficiency of mechanical and electrical equipment. That is all. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Zhou. China is the biggest emitter of carbon dioxide, but on the other hand, they have very strong industry on renewable energy, electric vehicle, batteries, and chemical industry such as JUHA. We learn a lot. Thank you very much. Next one is Mr. Sinha from India. Please talk about your business to lead energy transition in India?
Yes, thank you so much, Nobutani-san. It's a pleasure to be here and to be speaking to all of you and my fellow colleagues on the panel as well. Renew Power is a relatively younger company. We have been in operation for the last 10 years, and we are a company that purely targets setting up, owning, and operating wind farms and solar farms. And we have been doing that, as I said, for the last 10 years. We now have close to 10,000 megawatts of commissioned wind and solar capacity, or in the process of getting commissioned. And at this point, we now generate almost 1% of India's total electricity production and help mitigate almost 0.5% of India's total carbon emissions. So we've now become a good-sized company, and we're helping have an impact on India's energy transition and as well as the climate change issues. We have a fully integrated model where we set up everything ourselves, and we also do the asset management ourselves. And so that is a capability that we've created over the years. And if you look at India's energy transition right now, India is really going from an area of dependence on coal-based power, which accounted for almost 65% of India's total power generation, to now a situation where over the next 10 years, renewable energy will account for at least 35% of total power generation. And so this will require us to add very, very significant new capacities of renewable energy. And the government's target is to increase the existing installed capacity of renewable energy of 90,000 megawatts by 5 times over the next 10 years. And so the intention is to get to 450 gigawatts of installed wind and solar capacity in the next 10 years. So there is a very significant plan that the government has laid out. And then, of course, we have new emerging areas like clean hydrogen also coming up, which will allow us to not just produce clean energy for the electricity sector, but also for other areas of energy consumption, such as mobility and so on. So I think those are areas in which there is going to be a fairly broad basing of clean energy into other areas beyond just the electricity consumption area. So India is well advanced on this path. The government of India is a very big supporter of this whole program. And we have given very significant commitments at the Paris Climate Accords and subsequently on the targets for clean energy and the transition towards cleaner fuels. And we are well on our way to achieving those targets. And there are companies, of course, like us who are working as hard as we can, raising capital, executing projects, as well as there are many other companies who are also doing that. And therefore, this is a very active sector in India right now. And the tariffs have become very competitive. And now clean energy affords us the cheapest form of new electricity. And that hopefully then will become affordable and accessible to everybody. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Sinha. We can learn how active private sector in India is leading energy transition. Thank you. So next one is Mr. Akita from Russia. Mr. Akita is one of the most famous entrepreneurs in Japan. He works on electrification in Africa. So please tell us your story.
Thank you, Nobutani-san. It's a pleasure to be here. So let me introduce challenge first. Currently, there are 770 million people who do not have access to electricity in the world. Then 75% of those people are in sub-Saharan Africa. There are two major challenges. The first is distance. In sub-Saharan Africa, people are scattered over a large area of land. So the typical electrification approach, such as building power plants and extending power line, is too costly to cover the entire region. The second is the low income of the customers. Solar panels are widely available for off-grid areas, but many people living in rural areas cannot afford them due to their low income. So under these circumstances, we are offering an innovative service that allows low-income customers to rent rechargeable LED lanterns, which is charged by solar panel, that meet their minimum needs of lighting and mobile phone charging for one day when they have small amount of money. This is made possible by a network of local retailers and a unique billing system using mobile money. In rural areas, retail shop owners operate the rental service and charging as agents on our behalf. The retailers network is developed by local washer members using our own selection methods, and the number of stores has reached 5,000 in Tanzania and Uganda in East Africa at the moment. Our billing system is designed for prepaid to avoid money correction risk and allowing customers to use our service with very small amounts of money. So we are currently operating in 2 countries and plan to expand our service to other countries. That's all. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Akita. A very brief and persuasive explanation. Well, we have covered South Asia, China, India, and Africa within half hour, thanks to digital technology. We learned many things, but maybe energy access is still important in Asia and Africa. Also, technology is important to achieve ambitious goal, like Mr. Akita said. And the intermittency and renewable energy is another important aspect. In short, people are fighting in a different situation, in different manner. So there seems to be a room for international cooperation. So let us move on to the second issue, opportunities and cooperations. Challenges sometimes means opportunities. Challenging opportunity is good timing to make new friends. I would like to panelists to explain how you take advantages of opportunities and what is your expectation for international cooperation, especially with Japan. So let us go on the same order. I would like to give 3 minutes for each. So first, Mr. Taufik, please.
Nobutani-san, thank you for that. You couldn't have said it better. There are many interest groups and many challenges across many countries, and many regions face very diverse and different challenges, as outlined by Mr. Sinha and Mr. Akita earlier, as well as Mr. Zhou. There is no one single pathway to achieving an entirely sustainable solution and carbon neutrality. There are 3 elements to Petronas' mind that we need to address. Number 1 is the access to the right technologies, as very amply demonstrated by Mr. Akita's story earlier. The second, the willingness to transition to have the skill sets and capabilities to deal with a new energy landscape. And the third, perhaps the most important, if not the most difficult to secure, is a clear and coherent investment framework for energy transition. And I believe that the governments that we work for and work with have an influence over how energy investments can flow and collaborate and address the energy needs. Every country is unique in its search for access to reliable and secure energy. And therefore, dealing with issues such as intermittency, Petronas has always embarked upon the belief that energy transition can be planned. There is something naturally suited to help energy transition as a fuel, which is in our view, natural gas. And we are always in awe and admire countries such as Japan, which have already strongly committed to sustainable energy practices. In fact, we have taken a leaf and taken the example of the net zero aspiration as announced by Prime Minister SUGA. And in that context, collaboration is necessary to address those 3 key elements. In us doing so, we are working not only within the country with state energies that pursue electrification solutions as well as hydrogen, but we've also worked with the Middle East entities such as ADNOC and Masdar to explore new solutions within the space of R&D for hydrocarbon recovery, carbon capture, and hydrogen, both from blue and green sphere. But with specific regards to Japan, we are proud to announce that we have had a number of MOUs and collaborations for feasibility studies, in particular for the hydrogen chain and how to deliver it and solve the logistics issues with people like ENEOS. We've talked also with JERA in the same front. Similar with Itochu and Mitsubishi Corp, we have also explored how the supply chain for hydrogen can be resolved. With CCUS, we've always aspired to work with someone like JOGMEC, and we believe that this will be part of the holistic solution in coming to a more carbon neutral future. Back to you, Nobutani-san.
Thank you, Mr. Tung Taufik. The next one, I'd like to invite Mr. Zhou from China.
Thank you very much. In my view, the process of carbon neutral will lead to green technology innovations in power transportation, industry, new materials, construction, agriculture, carbon negative technologies, and information as well as digital technologies, which are likely to become important investment opportunities in the future. From the perspective of the future, JUHUA is vigorously developing related materials for photovoltaic, energy storage, integrated circuits, and other fields. Examples would be lithium battery new diaphragm materials, fuel cell membrane materials, photovoltaic backboard materials, power battery packaging materials, energy storage battery electrolyte, and big data center thermal management materials. Acceleration of the development of new energy equipment, such as light photovoltaic modules, new energy compressors, high-pressure hydrogen storage tanks, liquid hydrogen storage tanks, efficient liquid flow batteries. These will be the new growth opportunities of JUHUA's future green development. At the same time, JUHUA is also actively exploring the cultivation of hydrogen energy industry, deeply integrating information technology, digital intelligence, and chemical production to build a future factory. JUHUA has always attached great importance to international cooperation. Examples would be Marubeni, JGC, Central Glass, Asahi Kasei, Showa Denko, Yokogawa Electrics. We have been able to establish very deep cooperation with such Japanese enterprises. We cover fluorine chemical industry, electronic chemical materials, hydrogen energy industry, intelligent manufacturing, and have achieved remarkable results. As our next steps, JUHUA hopes to carry out more and closer cooperation with Japanese enterprises in commodity trade, development of high-end new materials technology, development of high-end equipment technology in the field of hydrogen energy, development of low-carbon technology, and zero-carbon technology. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mr. Zhou. Next one is Mr. Sinha from India, please.
Yes, thank you so much, Nobutani-san. Look, you're absolutely right. The task in front of us in terms of this energy transition across the world, not just in India, not just in Asia, but all over the world, is something that is really, really a big challenge. And we don't have time because we have, the longer we carry on burning fossil fuels, the worse the problem gets and the sooner it becomes worse. So we have to get to a solution as quickly as possible. And for that, we really need everybody pulling in the same direction. We need, 2-3 different areas that have to come together. The first, of course, is technology. If we don't have technology developments, we will not be able to find the right solutions. And the good news is that over the last 10 years, we have been able to demonstrate that we can find solutions in the reduction of the renewable energy tariffs that have happened through technology evolution. We are now seeing the improvements in battery technology that will allow us to continue to have more and more storage to manage the intermittency of grids. We're also now beginning to see solutions emerging around hydrogen. And those are things which I think are very, very critical to allow us to make this energy transition. And therefore, technology needs to be democratized. It cannot be sitting in any one country. It has to move as quickly as possible across borders. And all of this requires international cooperation. The second area is financing. I think we need institutional investors from all over the world investing wherever we can have reduction in carbon emissions, whether it's in emerging market countries, Asia or the US or Europe, does not matter. So we need a lot more flow of capital. And the third thing is we need more and more companies that get involved in this space, because we need more people executing projects at the same time. You cannot, this job is so large that it cannot be done by 3 or 4 or 5 companies. It has to be done by a number of companies, oil and gas companies, utilities, IPPs like us, new age companies. Everybody has to try and come together. So I think these are the 3 or 4 different areas in which we require really good borderless international cooperation almost to solve the problem. How can Japanese companies get involved? We are fortunate that we already have a Japanese partner. JERA was an investor who came into our company almost 3.5 years ago. They've been very good partners for us. They've given us capital and they've given us some people, and they also give us expertise and cooperation. And so our partnership with JERA has been very positive for us. They own about 10% of our equity. And like that, we're talking to a number of other Japanese companies as well for investments into projects in India, because as you know, this area requires a lot of capital. So I think that's another area in which we're looking at. The third area I think we can look at is partnership with entities like JEBIC to again provide debt financing as well. So I think those are the areas in which we can partner with Japanese companies to really go further in the space. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sinha. The final one, Mr. Akita, please.
Thank you, Tani-san. In my opinion, electrification scenario in sub-Saharan Africa is different in urban and rural areas. As for urban area, there are huge business opportunities in the context of carbon neutrality. In fact, Marubeni Corporation, which is an investor of Russia, is focusing on such projects, such as mega solar power plant. In addition, there are opportunities not only in the energy industry, but also in the consumer business. For instance, Baridi Baridi, a joint venture between Daikin Industry and Russia, is expanding its subscription service for energy-saving air conditioners in urban areas of Tanzania and increasing the number of customers right now. However, I suppose carbon neutrality itself is not a business opportunity for business in rural areas in Africa. This is because environmental friendliness is not recognized as an additional added value. For them, affordability is the most important factor. As a company, environmental consideration must be taken into account as a cost. And the key to success is how we can minimize total cost in R&D, business model design, and operation design. Also, if you do business in rural part of Africa, the most important thing is to improve their income and increase their options. For a long-term perspective, not limited to environmental issue, the challenge is how much we can develop local businesses that will generate higher income for local customers, such as farmers, fishermen, and retail store owners. So we are now preparing new businesses in such areas. So if there are companies that are interested in collaborating with us in those fields, I would like to talk. Thank you. That's all.
Well, Mr. Actor, thank you. We have touched upon many important points. As Mr. Actor said, affordability of energy is one of the most important issues, not only in Africa, but also in Asia. Also in Europe, they always mention the problem of energy poverty. Affordability or energy poverty versus environmental integrity is our most difficult part for us. Everyone pointed out the importance of technology. Technology can be a key to solve this question. Mr. Taufik, he pointed out importance of policy framework that can be accelerate flow of capital and availability of technology, as Mr. Sinha pointed out. So we can ask our government to work harder to focus on technology development, which can be useful for energy poverty and affordability of energy and development of Asia and Africa. This might be the important point of our discussion this time. So, thank you very much for the comment on 2 questions. We learn we are facing on different issues in different regions, different topics in different economic situations. We are doing our own effort to tackle the challenges. China, India, Asia, Africa, they are all developing economies. We are in the middle of a developing process. And it is important for all of us to find practical solution how to deal with the carbon neutrality. Also, I found there are lots of international cooperation among us. I'm very happy to hear many of you already have a cooperation with Japanese companies, which is good for us too. It is a good opportunity for Japanese companies to invest as well. We would like to encourage these kind of cooperation among us. Business players in Japan are ready to work with you, and Japanese mega banks have been famous as top supporter of renewable energy around the globe. And my organization, JETRO, is always happy to connect all of you. Finally, I would like to conclude this panel by asking final comment to you. So please tell us your leadership toward carbon neutrality. Mr. Tung Taufik, please.
Thank you, Nobutani-san. We will definitely take up your offer to hear from JETRO and how much we can collaborate more with Japanese entities. In Petronas, we are driven by our purpose to become a progressive energy and solutions partner to enrich lives for a sustainable future. When we make that statement, it is very curious for many people to hear oil and gas is not in the statement. We want to make sure that energy is delivered to every one of our customers in a way that is affordable, that it is secure, and it is sustainable. The classic energy trilemma, which is not very easy to achieve. And we do believe, and I emphasize again, as you said earlier, that not only the technologies and the skills need to be developed, but also that all important capital flows where sustainability issues are dealt with at different speeds must flow to the right place at the right time. And in doing so, the only way to really achieve this is collaboration, not only from within the energy fraternity, but also across many industries. As you have heard, technology does not only affect any one emitter of carbon, it has also to deal with the emissions across many, many sectors and many, many geographies. So we hope that in driving the policy back home in Malaysia, as providing the input for our own national energy policy, in advocating the use of natural gas as a transition fuel, and working with many, many customers in addressing their policy shifts, we will help progress the necessary solutions towards achieving the reduction of carbon from our energy systems over time in a deliberate and strategic manner for the benefit of all. Thank you, Nobutani-san.
Thank you, Mr. Teng Taufik. Next one is Mr. Zhou, please.
Dealing with climate change is a common cause of all mankind. As the largest developing country, China has made a solemn commitment to reduce emissions. It will achieve the highest reduction in carbon intensity in the world, from carbon peak to carbon neutrality, in the shortest time in the world's history. As a Chinese company, JETRO will adhere to the innovation, harmony, green, openness, and shareness, a new development concept, and uphold the open and inclusive, learn from others, fusion refinement, self-contained business philosophy. And we will focus on carbon peak and carbon neutrality issues in key areas and strengthen our innovation. And will strengthen international economic and technological cooperation between enterprises and accelerate the adjustment of energy structure, industrial structure optimization, green and low carbon development through green development, digital reform, to build a respected enterprise. JETRO is willing to work with all of you to make unremitting efforts to achieve the goal of carbon neutrality and contribute to strengthen and use our strength to building a common beautiful home. I hope you will come to JETRO. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Zhou. Next is Mr. Sinha from Renew, please.
Yes, thank you so much. Our company's purpose is to create a carbon-free world by accelerating the transition towards clean energy. And that is something that we have been working on diligently. And the good news, as I said earlier, is that the evolution of technology has happened so fast that solutions are now emerging that were not earlier possible. And I'm very confident that as we go forward, those kinds of solutions will continue to emerge as new technology research delivers us new solutions that we cannot at this point envisage. And our job as a company is to take those developed technologies and to apply it as quickly as possible into the large market of India. India is a country where the power demand will grow at about 5 to 6% every year for the next many decades, because India's per capita power consumption is so low. And so the choices that a country like India makes will be very fundamental to the world's battle against climate change. And our job as a company is to make sure that we play a pivotal role and a central role in making sure that that energy transition happens in the most effective manner possible without imposing any burdens on the economy and on the common man. And that's the purpose with which we as a company are going forward. This will not happen by itself because there is a lot of work that needs to be done. And in that respect, our job is not just to operate as a company by ourselves, but also to create a whole series of partnerships and joint ventures, which can allow us to, as I said earlier, raise more capital, get new technologies to come in, and increase our capability to execute projects on the ground. Because when you look at the physical challenge of creating the hundreds of thousands of megawatts of clean energy that we require to find the right solutions, it's an enormous challenge. And so therefore, there is going to be a lot of work for all of us to be done to move towards the whole area of carbon neutrality. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sinha. So next one is Mr. Akita, please.
So our vision is to unlock humankind's limitation. Through business, we would like to support the low-income people in developing countries to remove their constraints, such as lack of access to electricity, lack of access to job opportunity, lack of access to technology, such the lack of access, and also lack of capability. I believe that the key to this is to make something people want and affordable. So we will continue to go into the local communities and develop our business so that we can provide appropriate services, not only rental service, but also other services that meet their needs at a price they can afford. In this process, we will also consider carbon neutrality as an aspect. That's all. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Akita. Well, today we discussed many things, but I would like to conclude as follows. First of all, everyone have agreed the purpose of carbon neutrality. Everyone is moving forward in this way. The second one is that everyone faces different situations and everyone needs different solutions. For example, natural gas is needed for energy transition. Energy access is important in some area. The affordability of technology is important. So we need different solutions for different countries. There is no silver bullet for this matter. And policy framework is important to coordinate our effort. Finally, everyone loves cooperation rather than blaming game. We want to work together with big smiles rather than blaming each other. That is our discussion. International cooperation can be a kind of hot spice to accelerate our effort for a better future. Thank you very much for joining us today, and goodbye.
To conclude this event, Mr. Hiroshi KAJIYAMA, Minister of Economy, Trade and Industry, will deliver a video message.
皆さんこんにちは。経済産業大臣の梶山博です。本日はネットゼロリーダーズサミットにご参加いただきありがとうございます。本日ご講演をいただいた経団連会長のTOKURA正和様、パネリストの皆様をはじめ、本日お集まりいただいたすべての皆様に心から感謝申し上げます。日本は昨年10月、菅総理が2050年カーボンニュートラルを表明いたしました。温暖化への対応を成長の機会と捉える認識が世界的に広まっています。日本としても2050年カーボンニュートラルへの挑戦を次なる成長につなげるため、経済産業省がリードする形で日本政府を挙げた産業政策としてグリーン成長戦略を策定いたしました。この戦略に基づきあらゆる政策を総動員してカーボンニュートラルを実現していきたいと思います。経済産業省では例えば企業の皆様の大胆な投資や革新的なイノベーションを後押しするため、新たに創設した2兆円の基金を活用した支援に取り組んでおります。またアジアの現実的な脱炭素へのトランジションを支援するため、6月の日ASEANエネルギー大臣特別会合においてアジアエネルギートランジションイニシアティブを提案しました。これらの政策を通じて世界全体でのカーボンニュートラルに向けた取り組みや支援を着実に実施してまいります。本日のセミナーでは多様な地域事業分野の第一線で活躍するグローバルリーダーの皆様の議論を通じてカーボンニュートラルを目指す上での今後の展望や国際的な連携の必要性等についてさまざまな示唆があったものと思います。これらのご議論からの学びを得て日本政府としても中長期的な視点で さまざまなアプローチによりグローバルに脱炭素化への取り組みを支援してまいります。日本政府としては企業の皆様の主体的な取り組みを支える環境整備も進めていきます。ネットゼロリーダーズサミットでは日本企業の優れた技術やビジネス拠点としての日本の地域の魅力を発信するとともに国内外の企業間でのオープンイノベーションを生み出すための機会を提供しています。ジャパンテクノロジーショーケースの各出展ブースではカーボンニュートラルに加えデジタルヘルスケア等の幅広い分野において日本の魅力的なスタートアップ、中堅中小企業、そして地方自治体を含む合計54団体が集い個別の商談会を実施しています。ぜひこちらもご活用いただければ幸いです。このイベントが日本が誇る企業や市場の可能性を世界中の方に知っていただく機会になるとともに脱炭素化等に向けた変革や挑戦への契機となることを期待しています。最後になりますが本日ご参加の皆様の今後のますますのご発展を願い私の挨拶とさせていただきます。ありがとうございました。
Minister Kajiyama, thank you. This concludes the Net Zero Leaders Summit, Japan Business Conference 2021, towards a positive cycle of economic growth and environment protection. In the virtual event site, you can still communicate with other exhibitors and participants in real time through avatars. Please join us as much as your time permits. Thank you for watching.